morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Meet Menaca show, the episode 38, Wellbeing at Work. Today, we have a speaker who is so experienced in this area. It is Dr. Sivayoganathan, who is in this area as a specialist in occupational medicine, who worked as the director of Occupational Health Department for decades, including for Ford Motor Company and other industries. He's a specialist in the area, so I'm honored and humbled to have him on the show. A very warm welcome, Dr. Sivayoganathan.
Thank you very much, Menaca, for having me on this program. And I'm pleased to see a number of faces here. Thank you.
You're welcome. So well-being at work helps to create a positive working environment for individuals and organizations. And I think for sure, the last year has definitely taught us how important it is to promote well-being at work. It increases performance, productivity, and indirectly profit for the organizations. So I think it's high time we pay a bit more focus and attention on the essence of well-being at work for growth and sustainability at an individual level for employees and as an organization level for employers. So as an expert, Dr. Sivayoganathan, can I ask you, what is occupational health for you?
Well, the answer is simple. Basically, occupational health is all about work and health. The effect of work on employee and also the impact of health at work as well. Possibly I might give you some examples. Say, for example, if a nurse develops back pain due to lifting patients, then obviously as an effect of work on health. Same thing for an IT engineer who develops hand-arm musculoskeletal disorders. There you can quote so many examples on that. Similarly, if a driver develops epilepsy, that particular health issue can have a major impact on the work itself and the livelihood of the driver as well. It can be a professional driver, an ambulance man, a policeman, anybody. It depends on the work. So impact of health at work, on work, and also impact of work on health as well. Having said that, although it looks pretty simple in terms of definition, occupational health has been around for many, many years because this country is an industrial country. And during the industrial era, the specialty has evolved from the health and safety point of view from the beginning, and then occupational health and industrial health, occupational health and work environment, occupational medicine, and now is called health and well-being at work, especially in the NHS. But you can call it in many different names, but at the end of the day, the work we do almost same.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Siva, because it is like everything else, isn't it?
Yes.
Evolve, things evolve, names for definitely in NHS. I've been part of NHS for the past couple of decades as well. I can also tell that everything evolves quite rapidly sometimes. So what do you do in an occupational health department actually?
Well, we do an awful lot of work in occupation. It's a good question because not many people know what exactly we do. Even my colleagues sometimes say that you assess the fitness. Some people believe that you just give the immunization, and health screening is one of the terms they use. So the understanding is pretty superficial. But what we do here is really focusing on health of the employees first. Make sure they sustain their health. We do that in many different ways. If I quote you an example, say, as I worked in Dagenham Ford Motor Company many years ago, in a manufacturing company, you know that there will be assembly areas and machining areas and so on. And there are so many risks to the health of the employees. It can be physical risk, such as noise, hand-eye vibration, and so on. It can be environmental risks, such as asbestos, dust, fumes from weldings, and so on. Microbiological bacteria growing in the oil and things like that, oil mist and things like that. So the risk has to be assessed. So we consider a risk assessment approach as maintaining the health of the employees. To do that, we are trained in many different ways. For example, doing health surveillance, we are doing environmental assessment and things like that. Sorry, going back to the question again, could you repeat the question again, please?
Sure, sure. What do you do in the occupational health department as such? That's what was the question.
All right, okay. So we consider this risk assessment approach and make sure that the employees are aware and involved in health promotion as well, um, and report to the employers whatever the outcome. Usually it comes down to fitness of the employee, the job adjustments to the employee, the work adjustments, adjustment to the work environment, and so on. But when we do that in the way of writing reports to the employers.
Sure.
It can be reports, it can be case management meetings, or it can be producing statistics at the end of the year, occupational health report, annual report, and so on. So we interact with the employees with the outcome of the employees' assessment.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Shiva, because as you said, even as a dentist or a doctor, I think we often see occupational department. We just go for our screening, get the report, and we forget about it most of the time. So it's really important for us to understand behind the scene, why is it there? What really goes on in that department? So thank you so much for enlightening us. How could an organization benefit from occupational health? Because, as you know, mostly in health and safety and in organization, it becomes another tick boxing exercise most of the time. And it is, every organizations tend to see it as another thing to fulfill. Including I personally have a business myself, so I know I know both the sides of the coin because I work as a dentist. I'm also the practice owner. How can you convince the organizations that it's really important for them and why it is?
Absolutely. I think to create a good mental picture what we do or how we can offer to an employer, I would classify into three areas. First of all, to enable the employer to comply with the legal requirements. For example, this is where the pre-employment medical comes into. What we normally do in pre-employment to ensure the employers fulfill the Disability Discrimination Act regulation.
Sure.
Now it's been superseded by Equality Act now from 2010. What it says is if an employee has got a substantial disability which lasted for more than 12 months, the employers are legally expected to consider job adjustments. If it is a small employer, if they can't do it, that's a different matter. But if it is a big employer like NHS, they have to consider job adjustments, redeployment, temporary, permanent redeployment, and all. So we do, yes, not health screening, pre-employment medical assessment, and assess the employee's disability and inform the employers whether they are fit or not. First of all, we rarely fail an employee unless if it is a safety critical job and if the employee cannot do, or if that employee can cause substantial damage to himself or the employers or the community. So that's legal compliance is one thing. Secondly, as you know, there is employment law is around, and it's important that we need to comply with the employment law in different areas like health surveillance. A number of other areas have to should be fulfilled by the employers as well. So we help them. We carry out health surveillance and so on, and probably produce the report and pass it on to the employers. Secondly, we add value to the employer's business and productivity by helping them to deal with intermittent sickness absence, long-term sickness absence, and so on. We do that by arranging face-to-face appointment and then produce reports to the employers. The employee can have a copy of the report, and we have to send the report to the employers with the consent of the employee. The employee can have the copy of the report and make amendments if there are any genuine factual errors, but they cannot really influence or change the occupational health opinion. But still, there are employers who are not very happy with employees seeing the report. I can understand, because this came only a few years ago. We had to argue against this with the GMC and so on, but that they wouldn't budge on that. So sickness review assessment, then we conduct a number of other activities as well, such as producing reports. We can have case management meeting. In complex cases, we arrange the meeting with the HR department, union, and the employee and families and so on. So it can lead to significant complex decision like ill health retirement. So we add value in many different ways. In addition to that, most of the time when there is a consultant in the NHS trust expect the occupational department to generate some income as well. Sure. So income generation, they love it. It's free money for them. We don't see the money back to the occupational health, but they do. But it can be quite substantial, I must say. So we do that as well. And ill health retirement, I mean, I'm familiar with teachers' pension scheme, local authority pension scheme, Ford pension scheme, NHS pension scheme. So we provide services to various small organizations like local authorities, universities, and things like that. And I involve in arranging ill health retirement and they look after their occupational health as well. That includes general practitioners, dental practitioners, and so on. Sure. So that's a summary of, but we can expand a little bit further if necessary.
Of course. So I think it is a really important thing you said. It is a tick box. It is a by law. We need to do it. We are required to do it. And as a dentist, as a doctor, we also it's very important to know that there is no infectious disease or all those things. But on top of it, you mentioned productivity as well, which all the organizations want. So tell me why health and well-being at work is so important, so that the organizations can really understand what is the benefit of it, other than complying with the law or the necessities.
Yeah, I think a good healthy worker can be very productive, and they can sustain the production and the profit as well. That's pretty obvious to everybody. And the important thing is how to achieve that. I have already mentioned how we do a risk assessment approach, having occupational health, and how we deal with those issues and so on. Already, yeah.
So I'm just trying to make, if you have to convince someone why it's important, health and well-being at work, what would you say to them to just, make sure that, because as you can see, most of the time, the businesses have to balance a lot of different aspects. and well-being becomes part of it. Rather than that, can you convince them to make it one of the primary goals of the
Yeah, I
organization?
think more and more the employers are feeling that the employees are more important than the system, their policies, and their procedures, uh, because they are the one who actually produce the product, and they make sure the profitability for what do you call the income is sustainable.
The profit, yeah.
And legal compliance, health and well-being of the employees, and the profitability. Those are the three areas the employers are concerned about.
Yeah, yeah.
We help
Sure.
them achieve.
I guess they will perform also better, isn't it?
Yeah.
In their well-being. Yeah. Sure. So how it is implemented by occupational health department in and around the country? I know like you have mainly perhaps worked in the UK, but how is it implemented?
Okay. Sorry, repeat the question again. I just wanted to ask what.
How is occupational health and well-being implemented throughout the country?
Well, different occupational health departments will have different requirements. It's all depend on the nature of the work they do.
Sure.
For example, in cellular field radiology,
sure,
it's important. The radioactive materials may be a hazardous situation. In the police authority, different requirements, the internal policies and personal standards will be different. So they will have different occupational departments. So I think it's evolved over a period of time, but depend on the health risk and say rail industry or the NHS. I mean, everybody's requirement is different, and
sure.
We adapt to the situation and make sure that the risks are maintained and make sure the employees are healthy. But in certain organizations like NHS, they focus on health and well-being more than the others. Some industries may just focus on the legal compliance. That's the minimum requirement for them. But at the same time, in the NHS, they focus on well-being, and they implement that by having internal occupational health counselors, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, and so on. It all depends on the different setups, different models are available throughout in and around the country. Depends on the risk of the organization.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Siva. I think we understand occupational health a bit more now, for sure.
Okay.
So, we cannot have any talk now without mentioning COVID-19. So how did COVID-19 change the landscape of work at health? Because it's really, really important.
Yeah, I think that COVID-19 has made significant changes in the workplace. It exposed the reality of the situation. Even before COVID-19, for example, if you take the NHS, there were staff shortages, there was a problem in the sense stress has been a number one issue within the staff. There were issues in terms of staff engagement and things like that. So the COVID-19 has exposed all these issues. And now I have recently listened to the CEO of the NHS employers, and he said that nowadays the managers are focusing on employees' health and make sure the employees are healthy and their well-being are maintained. To do that, obviously they have to do whatever I mentioned before. There'll be good staffing level, there'll be expectation from the employees to have good engagement with the managers, annual leave and rota system, and everything should be looked at fundamentally. and make sure the employees are happy. That is the major change. I mean, the employees were not properly looked after prior to the COVID-19, but now the employers are thoroughly understand that the employees are important and they have to do whatever they need to do.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Shiva. So, in light of remote working in the world of new normal, as you mentioned, after the COVID, how important has it become with the remote working? You know, how are employers and employees coping with maintaining the
Well,
well-being?
as I say, remote working is one of those things which also emerged from
Yeah,
COVID-19. Um, it's going to be there. People have seen the benefit of remote working. It doesn't help some employees. For some, it can be a bit stressful because they don't feel part of the team, and there are a number of negative things as well. But many employees feel remote working is extremely positive and they are comfortable and reduce the stress at work as well, especially the traveling, and it's good for the environment and so on. But on the other hand, for a manager, it can be a bit challenging to control the team. Uh, they need to risk assess, for example, if they are using computers at work, and if they are regular video users, by law, the employers have to do a risk assessment at home as well, things like that. But having said that, I think the crux of the matter is going to be the what they call hybrid work arrangement.
sure.
Some work can be done from home, some work can be done at work. So hybrid work arrangement is going to be the future. It's going to stay with us for many years to come. And it was kind of created by COVID-19, I would say.
Sure. Thank you so much, because I think this is the new normal. This is where we are heading, isn't it? So I think it's
Yeah.
important to understand that. Um, so in that light, can you tell us how physical, social, emotional, and psychological well-being are all interlinked in occupational well-being, please?
Yes, because we used to think that say, for example, you take the stress situation, we used to think that work stress has to be separated from the family issues, the financial and social issues, and so on. But now, again, I can quote the CEO of the NHS employers. The manager seems to be very keen to accept that we can't separate those issues. The stress comes as a complex issue. So we can only deal with the situation as it comes. So occupational health can arrange, as I say, internal counseling, external counseling. They can refer employees to psychologists, neuropsychiatrists, psychiatrists, and so on. So um, the
Sure.
psychological stress can create physical symptoms as well. As you know, I don't need to
Sure.
mention that. It can create a number of physical problems, from cardiology to musculoskeletal neurological problems. I don't need to go into detail.
Yeah.
Uh, you can't separate those two issues, but we can only deal with them as and when it comes.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Siva. So all of us know we are only going towards the future, whatever was, it was, and we are all to move on. So in that regard, any comments on how the future would be for the well-being of employees going forward?
Well, I am very positive because since I saw the lecture from this NHS employers CEO, I think the NHS is going to set the standard for the other employers as well. Whether I worked in many different for many different employers like manufacturing, police authority, local authorities, and PCTs, and so on. So I think they all are going to focus on health and well-being of employees. Now they realize that They just can't rely on the systems and the internal policies. So the future is all about employees, their health, and their well-being.
Okay. So, I mean, that's good. At least you have this, you are more optimistic than, pessimistic than this is going to really happen. And we are heading in the right direction, if I may say.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, do you know any emerging areas in terms of health and well-being in occupational health right now?
Well, I have already retired from occupational health a few years ago, and I'm just enjoying my latter part of my life, shall I say. But things like, I mean, as you know, the government has introduced the increased the retirement age. So old age workers are going to be the norm in the future. And they come with health issues, a number of health issues. So there must be some innovative ways of accommodating their requirements as well. In the meantime, maintaining the productivity and so on. So it's going to be a challenge. So that's one of the area I am thinking that, all occupational departments should be prepared for. There are certain other issues like menopausal symptoms among
Mm-hmm.
women. We never thought in occupational health that will be an issue, but increasingly it's been highlighted from different agencies, charities, and even the government ministers have been started talking about it. So there will be some changes in that as well. Then, of course, occupational health is an evolving area. It depends on the science, depend on the um, new areas of work. I think it will evolve in future. I
Sure.
cannot predict, but there are certain areas which we can
Sure.
say confidently that that will improve. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. I'm so glad you mentioned menopause because I think it is still a subject which is not widely talked about and which is an important subject if we are going to include female leaders in the workforce. So thank you so much for saying that. Can I ask, is there any way we can influence the organizations? Because sometimes we have these barriers for employees and organizations alike, um, to get this ball rolling about well-being at work. So what can we do to overcome? Do you think that is there enough reward and remuneration there?
Reward and remuneration will be looked at by the senior managers and the employers in future, because that's one of those areas the employees want. So it will be part of the employees engagement. The employers has now realized that they need to fulfill the expectation of the employees to make them more happy or happier so that they can maintain their productivity. It can be reward, it can be annual leave, it can be the way they work, the rota system, and having more employees, more medical schools, more nursing recruitment, and so on, in-house counseling and things like that. So there are areas where the employers can improve.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. Being there for a couple of decades or more in the occupational health, firstly, can you tell us why you chose it? And do you think it gets the attention it really deserves?
No, that's the downside of occupational health. I must say, not many people are aware of what we do. Not many managers were aware of the value of occupational department, but increasingly things are changing, and the COVID-19 has changed the landscape of the occupational health and well-being situation. So I hope in future things will improve, but the awareness has been a problem in the past, and we are part of the problem as well. I think we didn't escalate our activities to another level.
Thank you so much because this is not a branch of medicine we often hear about, let's face it, isn't it? Because I think it's important for people or talk shows like this or any other organizations to bring light why it's so important to have these things there. And might be it is also important for the medical students, for example, to consider this as a, otherwise we would be left with shortage of workforce in this department. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think it is a general awareness talk I'm thinking of here. But in occupational health, there are specific subjects we can keep on talking about for an hour about random vibration and
Sure.
stress and occupational health, asthma, and so many subjects we can deal with that. But I am giving a general picture of what we do and what happened in occupational
Sure.
health and so on.
Of course. Thank you. Because it's interesting you said that, because I heard a speaker the other day speak about this, and he's an Asian speaker. He said, amongst Asians, we become doctors, lawyers, accountants, or a failure. And it was
Yes,
really,
yes,
really, shocking, but it is the truth. We all know, like we all belong there, so we know how there's a lot of truth in it.
yeah, sure.
So thank you so much for that. So would you recommend each organization must have an occupational expert in some form or the other?
I would recommend each organizations to have some contact, at least has some channels to access to occupational health. In this country, there is no legal requirement to have occupational department, whether it is small or medium or large industry. There is absolutely no legal requirement, but without occupational department, it would be difficult for large employers to comply with the legal requirement minimum. So yes, I think they need to have occupational health, access to occupational health, but having a specialist is going to be difficult because there aren't many specialists around in this country. Uh, so it is very challenging for the employers to have in-house occupational health department. Instead, they will contract out. They buy the occupational health from outside companies, occupational health companies. There are They run the department with nurses. They are very competent. They are very able people, and they know when to refer an employee or when to deal with the occupational health physician, when to bring the occupational physician to deal with a clinical situation and so on. So this is how it's going to work. But there are certain initiatives by the Faculty of Occupational Medicine to increase the training program among doctors. But it is a challenging area, I must say.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. So, is there anything people can do to increase awareness and integrate well-being in a holistic sense? Because most of the time, as people and as organization, we see things very fragmented, right? We see, the workforce, we see the finance, we see the operations, or we see the health and safety. Is there any way that we can integrate well-being in a holistic sense into every organization so it becomes part and parcel of it?
You mentioned the word holistic, which is absolutely important. As I say, we cannot separate the physical and psychological issues. So it has to be a holistic approach. Um, but in terms of awareness, I'm not quite sure, Menaca, because sometimes I feel that people are overloaded with information, leaflets and magazines and things like that. And people are overloaded with COVID-19 information and vaccination. They struggle to absorb and interpret the meaning of it. So that's again, is going to be a challenging areas for occupational health. It's an ongoing issue for us to
Sure.
increase the awareness. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, because it's really interesting what you said. We do live in a world of information overload for sure, and as most of you might know, 60 we have apparently around from 60 to 80,000 averagely thoughts every single day, and 80% of them are mostly negative. And so, the information overload has definitely something to do with it. However, because I can tell as well as a business owner, because we get the same information or very similar information from different organizations, in different formats. So instead of that, is there any way that we could streamline perhaps, and just one information goes to employer so that they are more likely to read it? And like you said, if we get 10 different leaflets from 10 different organizations, most of the time what happens is like we get into a state of overwhelm and nothing gets in.
Yes, that's right. I think from your point of view, I think the topic itself, I have to say thank you to Dr. Kanta Niranjan. She actually contacted me and asked me whether I could do a presentation on that. But I have been to many presentation lectures by my colleagues. They don't even mention about occupational health. Even they talk about asthma or depression. How many people in this country are taking antidepressants and being at work? Drivers, policemen, teachers, and so on. They don't consider. But when they say, our colleagues, psychiatrists, when they talk, they talk about depression, they don't even think about occupational health. I feel that is a lack of awareness. It is our problem rather than their problem, though we need to engage in targeted awareness program rather than throwing leaflets and things like that.
Sure. Thank you so much, because, as you said, it's 1 in 4 will perhaps have some kind of psychological problem in their lifetime. So I think it is really important for everyone to sit up and listen and learn as much as they can. And I think as a medical profession as well, it's no secret. I had psychological issue myself personally. I was signed off from work. I talk about it openly just for that reason, to bring that awareness and to have discussions openly, honestly, and encourage other people to go and seek help. And because talking is the best therapy sometimes, isn't it? Like talking openly can really help. So thank you so much for that. But as you exactly mentioned, most of the time it is not linked to the occupational health. It is seen as 2 different entities altogether, which is really not. We are just one human being. Everything affects everything in our life. It's all part of. So how can we do that? Any suggestions? I know you are retired, but perhaps people, like a torchbearer, you can tell them what could be done in the future.
Well, I think, as I said, targeted health promotion and targeted awareness is the key. I would target the HR community, the senior HR directors, employers, and decision makers have to be aware of benefits of occupational health, benefits of health and well-being of the staff as well. I think that's the key. I must be honest with you, we've been struggling in that. We have not been succeeding in making that awareness. I don't know why it's not happening, but as I said, there aren't enough occupational health physicians, there aren't enough occupational health nurses. The Faculty of Occupational Medicine is trying to do its best to improve the situation. I hope things will only improve in future.
Sure. Why do you think there's such a shortage?
It's multifactorial, I think. The awareness, lack of awareness is one of the key issues. I think, yeah.
Do you think reward and remuneration is part of the problem?
Rewarding rewards in terms of occupational health is good
Okay.
compared to other specialities. Occupational health physicians are well paid, and some have come as CEOs as well for
Sure.
major companies and major um, blue chip companies. And there's no, I mean, for example, when we receive referrals, we don't receive referrals only from GPs. We can receive referrals from the HR community, um, employers, managers, and so on. There's no barriers. That
Sure.
itself speaks
Yeah.
things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that is so true, because I know as a practice owner, even our practice manager can make the appointment for staff if they have to go. And I
Yeah.
have had needlessly injuries myself in the past and gone. So I know there are not many barriers when you do want to get there. It's much easier to get there. So we are almost coming to the questioning side of it. Just before we wrap up, my question, can I ask you, if you have to give some advice for the people who are employees and people who own the organizations and even medical profession, if you want to convince them to go into occupational health, what would you be 3 or 5 takeaways people would go off this talk show and think about it? Dr. Shiva said this, and now we know why it's important.
Yes, I think compared to other specialities, occupational health stands out well in certain areas like there is no weekend work, there is no on calls. The work itself is very rewarding and satisfying as long as you have the right attitude and right approach. There are a number of other other benefits as well. I couldn't run them because of, I couldn't
Sure.
think of. But
Yeah.
obviously, that's something I need to polish myself and pass it on to students and trainees in future. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think as a employer, I think, because I mainly do leadership coaching and training right now, and my main thing I tell them is, we have been trained to think professional success is the most important thing. However, often we forget personal happiness and personal peace is really important, not only to reach there, but to sustain it long term. And I think that is where the occupational health, I think, is a missing piece sometimes. And also it increases the performance, the productivity, and the overall profit in the long term. So it's a win-win situation as far as I can see it. Would you agree, Dr. Shiva?
Absolutely. I think that's certainly important. I think from the productivity point of view, people, the managers and the employers, they totally agree that occupational department input is absolutely important. From the employees' point of view, many employees believe the occupational department, not only the employees, the trade union and others believe occupational department is important to maintain good health of the employees. So we are in the middle between employees and employers. We are we are taking a balanced approach to ensure the health and well-being of the employees are good. At the same time, the productivity also maintained and the sustainability is maintained as well.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. It
Thank
has
you.
been an honor to have you, and I definitely learned a lot more about occupational health and got much more insight. Please hang on, and you will all get a chance to ask questions to Dr. Shiva personally. Before that, following tradition, let me announce the next week's speaker. Next week, we are going to be speaking about money management with Raj Rudran. He is the president of Scott, came to the UK in the 70s, and he's a qualified accountant, and he has a master's degree in finance. And he has worked globally, based in London. He has worked in Brussels, Stockholm, and global vice president and international director, European director, CFO, and finance. I can't wait to have Raj Rudran to come and speak about basic finance next week. Before we go to the questions, I am going to hand over to Dr. Kanta Niranjan to give the vote of thanks. Over to you, Kanta.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Meet Menaca, I have a great pleasure to have Dr. Sivayoganathan Siva in the forum today, and for your wonderful talk, very useful. And the topic is a lot of people is not known to many people, the facts of what happening in occupational health. And I also think that a lot of people don't come forward to seek help for themselves at work, and the contribution by OC Health is very, very useful and very beneficial. I have been to OC Health few times when during COVID time, when we had a lot of stress at work. I'm sure during the time the OC Health department was very busy. We all were advised to seek help, anything, and especially stress at work. And thank you very much for your wonderful talk today. And I'm sure a lot of people will be here to ask questions about this. Thank you very much, Siva.
You're welcome, Kanta. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanta. Thank you, Dr. Shiva. I have already got questions, so you're going to be popular for the day. I can see.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the audience. Without audience, there's no point having this year. So the first question to you, Dr. Shiva, is during the pandemic, lasting more than 1 year, a large number of office workers are working from home. Some of them may or may not be feeling lonely as the social interactions are limited. Because they don't have the lunch breaks, they don't have the office mates to have a chat and to clear doubts. There's a strong possibility that many such workers could suffer from psychological problems and become tired and depressed. What can we do about it? That is the first question to you.
Well, it is a real dilemma for the managers. It is a new challenge posed by the COVID-19, but it doesn't mean that the issue is going to go away. Many managers take the common approach by allowing the employees to come to the office and enjoy the coffee chat or whatever. But the problem is, in a team, many people may be already missing from the team, and there will be less interaction at work as well. So they need to find some innovative ways of interacting with the employees to ensure that the employees get together, more meetings, team buildings and things like that. I'm not a manager, well, I've been a manager, but I think it is a new challenge. I think they need to find new ways of improving the employees' engagement between themselves. But allowing the employee to work shouldn't be a problem that, but there might be some need to change or modify the workplace itself because of COVID, I presume.
Sure.
But team building exercises when it is allowed, various social meetings, improving the social meeting, annual leave arrangements and everything. So there must be, from the manager's point of view, I think it's a challenge, but they have to find some innovative ways to managing that.
Sure. I understand. I think as COVID-19, it's like the psychological makeup of people, isn't it? It can't be all doom and gloom. But there's also another thought that because of Zoom, we have seen people as people rather than another number, because we are not suited and booted all the time while going into the work. We see children and pets hanging around. We see people having normal conversations. Do you think do you think that has actually forced us to see people a bit more in reality, rather than seeing them as the boss or as the worker or as the CFO or the CEO? Do you think it has brought that human aspect of it more?
It is an individual perception, but I think that there is an urge among the society to engage more. Once the lockdown period is over, I think there will be more interaction between people and there will be more social activities and so on. Again, the workplace will be modified accordingly. one of the most important thing is the uncertainty among the employees for how long I'm going to work from home and things like that. If they know that if it is just for 6 months, they can buy, they can marry, they can buy a property, they can do so many things, certain things in so many things in life with certainty. But without certainty, they cannot move. All the employers are saying at this moment in time is a long-term issue. We will allow you to work from home. That's all they can say.
Yes, I was
There's
about to
nothing
say,
in written form. Yeah.
yeah, of course. It is, I did a speech for a dental conference in November, and it was called Leadership Through Turbulence. And I think it's the main thing, like you said, it is the unpredictability. That's the main
Yeah,
problem people have.
uncertainty, unpredictability causes stress as well. You need to
Sure.
appreciate that.
So the next question to you is, how often is fibromyalgia is caused related to poor working conditions? You could perhaps explain what is fibromyalgia. Some of them wouldn't know, some of them might know, because we do have
Yeah.
some doctors, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fibromyalgia is a medical term, is an immunological disorder, but I think what they meant was the chronic fatigue syndrome. Chronic fatigue syndrome doesn't, it caused by work itself. There are a number of causes for chronic fatigue syndrome. It could be infection, it could be post-viral syndrome, it could be various other things, but it's linked to the psychological state of the mind as well. Many physicians believe there is no such thing called chronic fatigue syndrome, but on the other hand, there are professors around who write papers about chronic fatigue syndrome. But as far as I'm concerned, and in my experience, I don't think chronic fatigue syndrome is caused by workplace issue.
Okay.
That's if I may be wrong. If that is the case, somebody has to correct me.
Okay. So next question to you is, Dr. Shiva, how is health and safety compliance enforced when employees are working from home, for example, right now?
Yes, I think that's a good question as well, because as I said before, home working can become norm in future, or hybrid working can become norm. If it is a regular VDU user, there's a definition for what is a regular VDU user. By law, the employers are expected to ensure the employee is complying with the VDU regulations. I'm talking some technical terms here, I suppose.
I was about to ask you to clarify that.
Yes, yes. I mean, in simple terms, they need to have an adjustable chair, they need to have an adjustable table, ample leg rooms and things like that. There is a generic questionnaire. The HR department or the employer will send it to them to complete. By looking at the questionnaire, the response to the questionnaire, the employers might decide to pay a visit in certain situations. So the risk assessment is important to ensure the workstation is satisfactory. The managers need to make sure that the employees need to have adequate break, adequate social interaction, and the contacts and so on. Make sure that they are not overloaded with too much work, because some managers believe that, if you don't travel, you do work during the travel time. But that's not right. Things like that. So
I think
it's going to be an area which we will come across with new questions and new ways of doing things.
Yeah, I think there is also a big push to, less is more, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it will have a big impact on occupational health and well-being as such, because there is this belief by many people that you have to do long hours and work hard, and you have to be connected on internet and emails, checking emails all the time. But it has been proven now by psychologists and research and science that actually people who do step out of that zone and pause and do other things and come back, they're much more productive. Do you think it's fair to say that?
It is fair to say that I am waiting for some information from the psychologists and papers to be published about remote working. I think it's a new area, it's an emerging issue. I'm sure there'll be a number of lessons to be learned in future.
Yeah, I think screen time will also become a more important thing to consider, isn't it, in the new norm now?
That's right, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. Please hang on, people who are in the Zoom. You will be able to ask more questions. So for people who are watching us on Facebook, it's that time of the day to say goodbye. Next week, same time, same place, we will see you to speak about financial management with Raj Rudran. Until then, keep safe, be happy, and keep smiling.